Notan is a Japanese paper cutting art that involves using both positive and negative space to create a mirror image of a design that you cut out of a black square. So it's kind of like a deconstructed square. Your designs can be asymmetrical, like this one here, or symmetrical, like this one over here. Either is fine, but you need to decide ahead of time, especially if you're thinking about doing something symmetrical that's balanced equally on all sides. If you're going to do a symmetrical design, it's probably a good idea to lightly pencil out your shapes so that they're equally balanced. If you're not doing a symmetrical design, then you can just do this freehand. Just make sure that you keep all of your corners intact. You're cutting into the sides of all of the sides of this square either way. Here's my example. I started by cutting some large shapes out of each side of my square here. Once I cut out each shape, I flip it over so that I get its mirror image on the outside of the square. Then I can decide if I want to cut more into those big shapes. So I decided I wanted to cut another shape out of this one. So now I have another shape I'm going to flip in the opposite direction. Now things are starting to get really interesting. I have a lot more space around this shape, so I'm going to cut out more shapes and then flip them. Now it's time to start thinking about the other sides of the square. Again, I'm going to start with bigger shapes, cut them out, flip them, and then maybe cut more shapes. So you can really keep going and going and going, and these can get really, really elaborate. Make sure that you keep track of all your pieces so that they don't get lost. Now things are really starting to look interesting. I've got shapes within shapes, and I'm starting to get this really cool design happening that is asymmetrical. I'm going to keep all of my shapes in a Ziploc bag until I'm ready to glue them down. Gluing is my final step. I want to make sure that I'm done with all of my cutting and that I'm really happy with my design before I even start thinking about glue. So here's what the final design is going to look like, more or less. So remember, you're going to be cutting your shapes out of the sides of your square, keeping the corners, thinking ahead of time about whether your design is going to be symmetrical or asymmetrical. And you're going to flip all of the pieces that you cut to create that mirror image. Here's what my finished piece looks like.